let's get started. So welcome to the Helix webinar series. As you know, some of you, we do webinars. This session in particular is around RC experts. We did one not so long ago. Actually, it was Mega that ran the session with me. So I'm delighted to have her back as well. And we will also have our team introduce themselves shortly. So the intention of today's session is we don't in particular have things specifically to share. This is the opportunity for you to talk with our experts. We have a team of support experts. We've got a product manager and we've also got development as well. So we'll do our introductions. Before we get started, just a reminder, there is the Q&A section of Zoom. If you don't want to talk, but you want to be involved, you can use that to put your question in. And again, if you still want to put it in there, and then we'll take it to the live discussion. This is purely live. There may be a few things we will share from the community page or some blogs, but in general, this is more your session to ask us if you have any questions or general challenges that you want to go through. So let's get started. So firstly, my name is Samantha Hudson dos Santos Figueira. I work as a program manager. I feature a lot on our webinars. We run them across all of our products. I also help with producing how-to content, which goes directly to our YouTube channels. So that's more the short videos, so between 2 to 5 minutes, which is normally on technical challenges or break fix. And then we have the webinars that are normally up to an hour, sometimes a little bit longer. And then we have these type of sessions that are more interactive, which give you the opportunity to talk to us. So that's a little bit about me. I'm now going to hand over to my co-host Anuja. If you want to introduce yourself, please.
Yes, hi everyone. This is Anuja and I work here as a technical support analyst for the Track-It product. I recently gave a webinar with the topic key features of asset management and the software license management. I have also created few of the videos. Feel free to look into our channel. That would be really helpful for you. I think I'll just give a short introduction of all the topics I covered in my webinar. So the first one was I overviewed the asset and the software license management module. We understood what the BMC client management is and what is the role BMC client management plays in managing the Track-It inventory. Then how this inventory works. We also saw the configurations and creating and managing the software license and the asset management module. We then also looked at managing the assets using the mobile application, common troubleshooting steps, and few of the important tips also. We then had documentations shared in our previous webinar, which talked about the frequently asked questions in the inventory module. And yeah, I think the latest news I have with this client management is that we do have this Track-It 2024 R1 release this year, and we do support the BCM version 24.1.00, which I think is a great thing. Yeah, I think that is it, Samantha.
Thank you, Anuja. And I'll just introduce Mega, your colleague who also worked with me last time. So Mega, do you want to just introduce yourself and some of the things that you've created, and then it might give a prompt for our customers to ask questions and partners.
Hello everyone. My name is Megha and I'm working with BMC software from last 5 years as a technical support analyst with the Track-It and Footprint application. So the last quarter, I have been delivered the webinar for the Track-It upgrade procedure from one build version to another. And recently we have been introduced the new version of Track-It application, which is 2024. And we have added a few new features, which is holding from the last few years, which is round robin. So if you have any questions which is related to upgrade or any new features of Track-It and what we have introduced, please feel free to ask the session. So I would like to hand over this to Eric.
Sounds good. Thank you. So my name is Eric List. I am Area Vice President of R&D and Product Management for a group of products within BMC, one of them, of course, being Track-It, and another one being Client Management. I'm here to be able to answer any questions that you have regarding the direction of the product, how we're investing in it, how we look at it from the company as a whole, and how we're continuing to grow and maintain the team that delivers this to you. So as you have questions, looking forward to answering. That said, I'll pass to Sridhar.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Sridhar, and I'm the Senior Manager for the product development for both Track-It and Footprints product line. And I'll be happy to take any questions related to the releases or the R&D facts, or in case that if you have any issues in terms of the product, like I'm here to answer.
Thank you, Sridhar. So I guess this is a perfect opportunity because I've got a few things I will share on communities shortly, but I would like to open up the floor to our customers and partners. If you have any questions, please take yourself off mute or you can raise your hand. Don't be shy.
And there's some familiar names out there. I see folks I know, such as Ken Soska and Ricky Rowe. I know you guys are out there. I know there's got to be questions from you all too, so don't hold back.
Yes, hi there, Eric. I was going to type it in, but I didn't realise we could be unmuted and
Yes.
let me. So yes, hi everybody. Some familiar faces, obviously, as well. So I've spoken to a number of you. So thanks for the session. One of my questions is, it's really for a customer as well. It's looking at the upgrade to the new version of Track-It 2024, and it is around the round robin functionality. And his question was the option to look at technician availability. So where you put work hours on and the general holidays, is there an easy way to add technician holidays? So if a technician is off for 2 weeks, is there a way of stopping jobs to be assigned to them?
Sridhar, you might want to jump into that one with the plans that you have around that as well.
Yes. So today the round robin takes into account the technician availability, and if you have if you remember from the user preferences, one can set the availability option, or if I'm moving out of office, I can select the dates. So those settings will definitely be taken into account even now, but the ability for an administrator to mark some technicians as out of office. Take for example, like if I'm sick and I cannot come to office, like I can call my manager and then say like I'm sick and I cannot be there. So the ability for my manager to mark me as out of office is no longer there. So that is on the roadmap. So which we will be picking up in the future releases.
Okay, thank you. So just to clarify, the individual technician will be able to add their working hours and holiday. So you'd have to do that for each technician. But when it comes to, as you say, that sort of reactive sickness, they can't do that. That's
Yes.
on the roadmap. Perfect. Thank
Yes.
you very much for the answer.
Yep. And just a note on that, I think what you're seeing with round robin right now is really kind of a version 1 of that. So Sridhar's got a number of different enhancements that we're looking at for the next release as well.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks for your question. Any other questions? We did get one in the Q&A, which I'll go back to shortly. So Richard, while you're off, was there any other questions that you had?
Not for myself, no. As I said, it was a perfectly timed webinar. So as I thought, I think we could jump in and say hello to everybody, and then sort of present that question. But
great, thank you.
No more questions for myself.
Thank you. Okay, so we did also have a question in the Q&A. There was a question, we have not used the software license module much. What is the easiest way to import license and keep up with assign license? Mega, I saw you answer that, and I know that has featured recently on a webinar and a couple of how-to videos. So do you want to just take that and repeat your response, and maybe Anuja might want to comment as well? Mega, can you hear us?
Sorry, Sam, I was reading the question of customer.
Yeah.
Could you please repeat what?
Yeah, so the previous question you answered in the Q&A, it would be good if we could just talk about it live, because again, it might prompt another question from our customers and partners. So the question was from, I think it was anonymous attendee, we have not used the software licensing module much. What is the easiest way to import license and keep up with the assigned license? And I can see that you've answered that question. Do you want to just confirm what you've responded to? And maybe Anuja can add something else.
Yeah, sure, Sam. So there is a specific software module option is available. When you click on that and go to the hamburger menu, and there's a link option available to the licensing ad. So whatever software we're getting the ad into your BCM, so this license automatically you can link manually to that software, your software. So there's a document I have also shared with you. So Anuja, would you like to say anything about add more points here?
Yes, of course. So the question to me looks like we have not used the software licensing module much. What is the easiest way to import the license and keep up with the assigned licenses? So I consider here being the software licenses you are willing to manage. I think the most probable and the most recommended way for BMC will recommend is to use the software licensing module that is also integrated with the client management. It has all the features, that will be helpful to you to manage all your licenses assigned to the right assets and the technicians. So I think software license module is the one that will be really helpful to manage all kind of software licenses you have.
Thank you, Anuja. If hopefully that's answered the question. If you do have anything further, then let us know. Another question that's come in, I'm not sure who will be able to answer this, but I'll ask it out to the team. I set up a task to be scheduled every 6 months. However, it is being generated weekly. What is the proper way to see it up, set it up?
Yes, so I'll take this. So I again consider here scheduling a task. This could be scheduling a report, scheduling any of the other modules in Track-It. We do have a specific options already available in Track-It to set it up monthly, to set it up weekly or daily. But if in case the right options are already selected and still it gives you an incorrect result, I'll just recommend you to create a case with us, and we will be really have a one-to-one session with you and help this fix. Looking at some different environmental details as well.
Great, thank you. Another question that came in as well, Bobby, if you want to come off mute, I know Meg has answered your question. You asked the question around, do you have mobile, Android, iPhone version for Track-It? And the answer was yes. So I don't know, beyond that, Eric and Shrida, if there's anything else you wanted to add. And Bobby, if you want to say hello, feel free to come off mute.
Hey, Bobby. Hi again. I'll be there to answer this. Please feel free to unmute in case that does not help you answer that does not help you answer your question. So the question is, how do we get this mobile version, and does it require additional licenses? So the mobile version is nothing but an application you can directly download. There are no any additional licenses that are included. It is just a way you use Track-It application on your application server on your workstations. There is just a third way you can use it from the mobile device. You just need to download the application. There are certain requirements and certain versions that are only supported. You can just quickly go through the system requirements for that. And there are no any additional licenses you need to have in order to install the mobile versions. I hope that answers the question. In case you still have any more questions, please let me know.
Thank you all very much. Yes, I do have a follow-up to that. Where do I get this software downloaded? Is this like in the App Store, or do I need to go to a Track-It link to download it on my mobile phone?
No, you can just go to your App Store and search for Track-It application, and you will really get the Track-It icon. You can just go ahead and download it.
Appreciate it. Thank you all so much.
Bobby, if you get any problems with it, feel free to reach out to me because all the communications will come through and I can connect you to someone in support if there's any problems.
Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. Clef, I can see you've got your hand raised. Do you want to come off mute? If you can
Yes,
hear us.
hi, can everyone
Hello.
hear me? Oh,
Yes, we can.
can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I have several questions, but I'm going to start off with the one of the many that I have. The first one I was going to ask is there a push for an import tool? And what I mean by that is if you're running two versions of Track-It, let's say one in a dev environment and one in a prod environment, whatever items I create or fix in dev, I want to be able to import it into prod without duplicating my efforts. Is there such a initiative to address that?
Yeah, so you're looking essentially for a tool that moves configuration changes from dev to test to prod, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So that's something that we have on our backlog. I would say it's not something that's up close. Just to be honest, I wouldn't expect it this fiscal year. And then beyond this fiscal year, we just don't have the plan out that far. So I'd expect that, you know, the next time we'll look at that would probably be within about 12 months. And then after that, we'd add it to a plan and then do the work to deliver it. So net on that one is yeah, it's something we're considering, but we just don't have a time frame for it at this point.
Thank you. I have some other questions, but I don't want to hog the session. So if anybody else has any questions.
Listen, please carry on because we will definitely get round to everyone. We've got a full hour. So Clef, if you go ahead and then we'll come to Ken. I think he's raised his hand after.
Okay, great. If I can ask one more question, and I'll say my other ones too. I'm just picking to see. So I spoke to a technician about the web API issue. Apparently there is a defect into Microsoft. You have BMC developers and Microsoft trying to work something out. I was just wondering if there was any status on that. I was told that if there was any type of resolution that I would receive an email, but just trying to figure out, you know, where do we stand with that?
I don't know this one off the top of my head. Anuja or Mega, do either of y'all know off the top of your head?
I think Sridhar would be the best person to answer of this.
No worries. So
I'm
Cliff,
sorry.
if you have the defect ID, can you
I
pop
do.
that into the chat? Just pop it in the chat, and while the meeting's going on, I'll look it up and see what I can find out for you.
Sure, I definitely will. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have others?
Do I have other questions? Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. We just begun. The fight has just begun. Another issue that I had too, and I don't know if this is a defect or not too, but in Track-It, when you're in the section for the forms template for tickets, when I go in and I'm in the edit mode, there is an icon with I believe it's the lightning icon. The choices would allow for responded action if you select it under the edit menu. We select it, and for some reason, it does not appear when we go to refresh the page or update our template. I was wondering if there was a fixed end for that as well. And I was told by a BMC tech that that was a defect as well. Wanted to know what the status on that was also.
I don't know that one off the top of my head. Anuja, Mega, either of y'all?
So Richard, do you have a defect number so we can go through it?
Not offhand. This was a ticket that I opened probably a month or two ago.
Yeah, if you want to send it over, we could go and look at it. Probably we won't get to it today, but certainly they can have a look at the defect ID and then we can write back a response.
Sure. And where would I send that to?
Feel free to send it to me and I'll pass it on to Mega and the support team, and then I can either put it into the Q&A section. Once we finish this, we put this in the communities because it's useful for everyone else, if you don't mind it being shared, because it's obviously got a defect ID, and then I'll also send you the response back on email or connect you to one of the ladies.
Okay, cool. Great. That's awesome. And one more quick question I'll throw in there too.
Go for it.
I heard that they were working on this in the upcoming release. So in business rules, when you go to set your conditions, as of right now, the max that you can set is 25. Is there a plan to expand those, the number of conditions when you're creating business rules?
Maybe I can take that. So I know that like with the current limitation of the choices that I can put in the conditions, that's where we learned or we observed that like you need to provide, or at least like we have seen. I don't know if it's you or not, but we have seen customers looking for 45 plus conditions. So that's maybe may not be an optimal way of achieving the business objective. So we are going to introduce certain new clauses in the business rule conditions and the help desk views where you would be more efficiently be using the filtered option. So instead of 45, I'm just picking a number. I'm just guessing it. So instead of 45, you should be able to do your work in less than 10 conditions. So that's the change that we are kind of thinking and envisioning towards in the upcoming releases.
Okay, so you're saying that you're going to not expand the number of criteria as far as 25, but you're going to just enhance that whole section, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and feel free to give us some details or use cases in terms of like why do you need more number?
Oh, I
so that,
got
like,
one for you.
Yeah.
I got one for you. So we have a business rule, and without getting into great detail, I have a business rule that's set for our service desk. And the way that we have it is that when they use a certain email, it prompts a ticket to be created via our service desk. There are several groups that we have that don't want that option. They want to use that same email for other things. And so in our criteria, it's a lot of does not contain this group, does not contain that group. And so we've ran out of numbers of groups because there's a lot of groups out there that don't want to get them. And I'm like, well, the first 25, we got you covered. But you know, if you're more than 25, well, you know, sorry, you're going to get them. So that's where a really excellent business case comes into play. And I guess it's proportional to the size of your shop or your project or your business that you're working for. So that's where that's coming from.
Yeah. Probably the in and not in clause, which can hold a multitude of values in terms of say, if my group in you select the groups that they want that email to be or the ticket to be created. So that would shorten the number of conditions that you want to put forth in case of business rule. So that's the part that we are looking for to improve the efficiency for adding conditions in the business rules. So this should satisfy your use case.
Thank you so much. I'm still looking for that Microsoft. I know it's D something, but I will get that to you by the end of the session. So just bear with me for a second.
You can send it post event if that's easier. Whatever you can find. Okay, so before we go back to some of the other questions that were answered and just recap those, Ken, I can see you raised your hand. Do you want to come off mute? And hello.
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. Good to see y'all. I know most of you there. And great job you did on this last release. Some really good things came out. I was really surprised. I didn't expect them all. It was like, wow, this is great. So Track-It's been great for setting up multiple departments, let's say, using the separate ticket forms for different groups and things like that. The other side of it, though, the self-service side, is there any thought to making it possible to have more than one version of the self-service page? Let's say I'm setting up Track-It for facilities management is one group and IT is the other group. Two very different ticket forms and two very different self-service requests. Currently, you have to kind of try to make one page that fits all, which honestly isn't always possible. So I'm just wondering if there's any thought down the road to make it possible to have more than one version of the self-service page. like for different different parts of the
Sridhar, do you want to
company?
take that, or shall I? I can take that one if you want.
Yep. Go ahead, Eric.
All right. So I think what we would look towards, Ken, is there's some functionality we've wanted to put in for quite a while, which we would call client-side business rules for self-service. And essentially, the way that would work is that there would be one URL to self-service, but the person coming in would be able to kind of select a specific starting topic, so human resources or facilities or whatever it may be. And then based on that selection, the form actually that's presented is different based on that selection.
Kind of like dynamic fields type of thing.
Yep, exactly. And
Cool.
to take that even further, right, as they select different fields, different other ones would pop up in respect to that.
That sounds great. That kind of brings Track-It next level right there.
Yeah, so that's a that's something that we desire to do. It's something I don't have a line of sight to at the moment. But when we get the time and space to do that, that's most likely the way we would go after it.
All right, good deal. And part of me says, maybe that'll never happen because honestly, from a business standpoint, you don't want to make Track-It the same as a higher end product or closer to a higher end product that BMC also sells. I get that whole thing. So just kind of wondering where that was on that line,
Yeah, no, that still fits because if you look at things like Helix ITSM, they're moving into very different spaces in terms of connecting in with observability and machine learning and AI type of operations connections, stuff like that. So there's still a lot of room for Track-It to expand and still stay within its space within the different products.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. Good to talk to you.
My pleasure. Good to talk to you too, Ken. And as long as we're on this topic, there's a question that's sitting in the queue that I'll go ahead and respond to now.
Go for it.
Yeah, that question is, where did it go? The question was around here it is, with the amalgamation of support teams, footprints, Track-It, are there plans to put those two products into one offering? Right. And so the answer to that one is no. We are doing some sharing of resources across the teams, just basically to make it easier for personnel management, and to make sure we've got coverage across different teams during time zones, during holidays, and all that kind of good stuff. And it's also a way for us to grow our teams' careers, to give them a larger scope in their knowledge. So that's part of their career building. But no, there isn't a plan to kind of merge these products together because they fit into kind of three natural tiers in terms of Helix ITSM, being our enterprise, that's the Ford Motor Company is those size types of organizations, and then Footprints and then Track-It. So no plans to mix those together at this point.
Thanks, Eric, for picking that one up. We'll go back to those questions shortly, but Richard, I can see you've raised your hand. Did you have another question?
Yes, I did. It's been kind of answered anyway as well. I had a couple of questions. So I should first of all introduce myself. Really didn't the first time round for the other people, but my name's Richard Rowe. I work for True North in the UK. So we are a BMC partner that deals with Track-It and Footprints, and I've been involved for over 24 years with Track-It since version 2. So I've kind of gone through all the various versions. So that's just a little bit about myself. But yes, my question was a little bit of both, really. It was what was just touched on in the last question, and I was going to ask about the client-side business rules and obviously the sort of the self-service with the one form. But with a lot of products out there in the market, it is a very mature market, and although Track-It sits into that sort of lower tier pillar, there's a lot of competitors that are doing these things like custom fields, so additional fields. So I was just wondering, is there a direction to sort of enhance Track-It so it does become a little bit more service management based as opposed to a help desk, or do we think it's always going to stay at that level for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think for the foreseeable future, it's gonna be more kind of help desk based, right? Because there are different tiers of the product for different things. We're going to continue to expand out the functionality around Track-It, but I don't know that we'd necessarily, at least in the foreseeable future, head in that direction. If things change dramatically in terms of the feature sets for the other products, then perhaps we'll just continue sliding things to the right, so to speak. But I don't think we're at that spot right yet.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. And my follow-up question towards that on the technical side of things is there any plans to introduce any kind of AI into Track-It?
Not in the near term now.
Okay.
Like I said, as the industry changes, might we slide things to the right? You know, as Helix continues moving out in direction X, and then Footprints follows, and then we take Track-It in that direction, potentially. But there aren't plans to do that at this point.
Fantastic. And then my final question, I suppose, really was more on the sort of business side, Eric, as well, in terms of, sort of, I suppose, partners as well. Are we looking to sort of run some more kind of events? Because obviously a few years ago we would be going to Madrid and we'd get together as partners, look at roadmaps, etc., etc. But it's been a bit quiet over the last couple of years.
Yeah, you know, that's something worth discussing, and maybe you and I can get together and talk about that in terms with our partner organization. So, you know, they're the ones that kind of do those BMC partner events and such like that, and how we get together. Because frankly, I'd love to get back together again. It's just something that hasn't happened in the last few years. And with the changes in that organization, that might be something we could spin up again, because I think it's a great tool for us to be able to empower partners like you to have the information you need to do great work with our customers. So I think it's a valid discussion to put back on the table again.
Brilliant. Thank you, Eric.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Richard.
to talk to you again.
Yes, likewise.
Clef, I see you have your hand raised again. Did you want to ask another question? I don't know if you can hear us.
I can.
Do you want to try unmuting yourself? I think you
Yes,
came off mute.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
There
Yes.
we go.
Yeah, it's weird with this Zoom. I'm sorry. So I do have that defect number for you. I was unable to put it in the chat because you have the chat disabled. But I could read it off to you. So
Stand by. Just give me something to write on. Hang on a second.
Here, write it down, or you could
Okay,
write it as a
good.
question. The reason we
Okay.
have the chat disabled is it gets confusing when you've got Q&A and chat and people don't know which one
Sure.
to use, and our company actually disenabled it, so it's actually easier to have it in
Yeah,
Q&A. There's a genuine
problem.
reason for it. I saw
No, I
Eric had
understand.
said hello to a few people, but he actually was saying hello to us as a team. I don't think he realized it didn't go to everyone.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
You know what it's like, different technology. When you use Teams, there was
Yeah.
Skype before, everything's got its
Mhm.
own little unique way of doing things. So
Doing things,
apologies.
yeah. No problem. No problem. I totally understand. So when you guys are ready, I'll
I'm ready.
give you that.
Bring it.
Okay.
Bring it.
So D is in Delta, R is in Romeo, Z is in Zebra, O is in Oscar, Z is in Zebra, TAC 28547.
Got it. All right. Let me see what I can find out, and I will either respond during this call or we'll come back to you afterwards.
And as a quick follow-up too, because this is one of the many questions too, and this is probably a really insignificant question, but I noticed in Track-It that you can rename categories, but you cannot rename groups. Is there a reason why that is?
So Sridhar, you might be better at answering that one than me.
Yeah. So the concept of group is you create a basket, or you create a kind of a categorization, and you assign technicians to it. And there are background in the background, like we create some of the views in the database that handles all these operations. So renaming it we might want to rebuild all of those views to reflect the right name. I think that's the reason, like, we had not provided that option as of now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dan, I think you've got a question. We'll come over to you now. I know you've put one in the Q&A about there being any plans to extend collaboration from email to include other tools like WebEx, Teams, or Slack. Can you hear us? I think you've come off mute, Dan. I'm not sure if he's having any problems. Eric and Sridhar, is that something that you can answer? Dan's question is in the Q&A.
Hi, good morning. Sorry about that.
Oh, hello.
My question's more around our organization's been adopting Teams, WebEx, not so much Slack, but that is in the pipeline for our end users just sort of communicating with my IT staff, and it would be ideal to have a lot of those dialogues connected to a ticket, because now we're seeing email kind of being not necessarily phased out, but not everybody's first preference to go to. So just looking to see what's available in that lane.
Yeah, that's so we're in our organization, we're heavy users of Teams. So I completely get your point in the fact that that's becoming the more default way to communicate and ask for help. So that makes a ton of sense. It's something we've heard from other customers. It's something we've looked at lightly, and I think it's something that we're just simply going to have to do. As we do it, it will be something where we would most likely go in the order of doing it Teams first, just because we have that infrastructure and knowledge here, and then we would leverage that to go to Slack. WebEx is one of those ones that I don't know that we would get to simply because of market share, but that's potentially out there. But I can see a good line of sight towards Teams and Slack. Again,
Sure.
In terms of what we're working on right now, we've kind of got our slate full for the next 6 to 12 months, and at each of those periods, we stop and we take a look at what's the input we're getting from our customers at that point in time, and we kind of reprioritize things based on what we know at that point in time. So I would say that this is something that's not going to happen this year, that I'm kind of confident of, but it's something that as we reevaluate the following year, it's something that's I think is really compelling and really useful. So yeah, I don't have a line of sight to it at the moment, but it's certainly something that we're looking at and that we think is valuable.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for your question. Okay, so that's all our questions. Does anybody else have any other questions that haven't spoken, or generic? Dennis,
Yeah,
I can see
to
you've
Brandon,
sorry, go on.
but real quickly to Brandon, you got an answer online from Mega. I just want to make sure real quickly, did that fully answer your question? Did you need any follow-up on that one?
I'm not sure
Brandon
if they're
McCurry,
yeah.
going once, going twice. Looks like he's muted himself again. Okay, never mind.
I think everyone's muted now. So yeah, I'll go back if there is any questions, if anyone wants to continue to ask. Clef, you've come off mute again. Hello.
I'm back. Sorry. All right. So this is not a question, but more of advice or maybe some sense of direction. I noticed in our production environment, and it's usually a set time between 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and probably 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, our Track-It production just goes cattywampus. It's just like it just will start dropping. Like we'll get messages that say something like, page unresponsive, or failed to retrieve data from the grid view, or transport level errors, or metadata, a lot of metadata issues. And it causes us to kind of reboot our server, which I know is frowned upon, but that's the only way that we can get rid of this. Is there some sort of way or some sort of technique or some sort of recommendation that we can use to more proficiently troubleshoot this type of errors that we get, that literally just closes our Track-It down for the most part?
I'm not the right one to answer that, so I'll defer to Sridhar or Nusha or Mega.
So let me begin. Maybe Mega and Anuja can pitch in with the additional details. So there is no one size fit all solution for this. It all depends on each of the customer's environment, because each environment is unique. And so far we have been like coming up with some of the performance tuning advices, or the values that we can do both on the Windows Server, on the IIS, and on the SQL Server side, which can improve the performance of the Track-It application as an overall one. So there are some blogs already written in our communities, and there are some KB articles available with our technical support. So maybe one of Mega or Anuja can reach out to you with those, and then see like if those additional settings can help you improve the performance.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sorry to interject there, Cleve, as well, but I would also say if it seems to be a common thing that's happening every morning at a certain range, whether it's also worth looking outside of Track-It to see if there's any other kind of issue that's causing it, or any other applications that have a similar experience.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's a good thing to think about. So it may not be just exclusively with Track-It. It could be just more of a broader issue, which Track-It could be just affected by it, basically.
Yes, exactly. Or you could even try a quick reboot before a particular time it happens, and see what happens. You know, if it goes through smoothly. So there's a couple of things that you could try just to be a bit proactive.
Yeah, I mean, 100% of the time, by just me going to reboot the app server, it takes a couple of minutes, but it clears it out. But from what I was told by a BMC Tech, that's not, you shouldn't be constantly rebooting your server. So I was just wondering if there was a less invasive way to kind of do this without having to reboot the server. You know what I mean?
No, this is true, and what Sridhar had mentioned before, each environment can be quite different.
Yeah.
My experience of my customers here in the UK as well haven't had that sort of raise, so that's why I was always saying maybe just check outside of Track-It as well.
Yep. Cool. Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you both.
And I have one more quick question. And this is I promise this is my last question. This is going to be a really
I don't believe you for a second. I don't believe you.
I was going to say the same. I thought it was 3, and now it's
well, I'm trying to make it to 11. No,
and it's okay. This is not a bad thing.
That's what it's for.
Yeah, right. But this is my last question. Is there a feature or a thought of a compiler for creating business rules? And what I mean by that is sometimes you have to build these things step by step. And I want to see where the error out first before I run the business rule. Is there something or talks of that? Okay, you guys are looking confused. Okay, let me back step. So what I want to do is, as I'm building a business rule, I want to run the business rule step by step without having to complete it, in order to make sure that step by step it works until its finality, in which it totally works. So is there a tool that will allow us, or thinking of a tool that will allow us to do that?
Like a debug mode.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't believe we have that. Sridhar, anything?
No,
not there today.
it's not available today. Yeah.
It's a cool idea.
No, I know it is. I know it's not available, but that's what I was. Is there thoughts of that? Has anyone else?
No, that hasn't been something that's been heavily requested before, but it's it's a valid idea and something we'll put down on the list for sure.
Okay.
Again, to interject, sorry, Cliff, as well, is one thing that I will usually do when it comes to business rules. I'm assuming that you've got multiple actions that are happening for business rule.
I got multiple actions and I have multiple business rules, because what happens is when you want something to happen, other business rules will either kick in or run concurrent, with it. So I'm just trying to figure out, from a 100,000-foot view, what does that look like? Piece by piece, step by step, ink by ink.
Yeah, certainly. Because what I was going to suggest is, if it's multiple actions on there, is just put one action at a time, test the rule, and then add another another action, and therefore that's sometimes rather than do everything in one fell swoop. But it doesn't quite meet exactly.
It doesn't work that, right? Because when you're building a rule, right, it requires conditions and then the after action. So I can't build just the conditions first and then run it. I have to build the actions with it too, and that's where things kind of go cattywampus again. But I was just wondering if there was a way to kind of debug and step through it. But yeah, no, that's great. That's awesome. You guys are awesome, by the way. That's all my questions. That's all I got to say. You guys are phenomenal. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you for having this.
Thank you. Let's go back actually to a couple of hand raises. I know, Dennis, you've put your hand back up. Hopefully you'll be able to come off mute this time. Do you want to try again? If you can hear us, Dennis. Hello, Dennis. I can see you've come off mute. I don't know if your audio is going through a different device. I know often when people struggle to talk with us, it's if they're on multiple devices. We certainly can't hear anything from you.
Can I say something in the meantime?
Yes, go for it, Bobby.
This is more like a feature request. Is there any way you can build into, when you're looking at a queue, all your tickets that are assigned to you, instead of opening up the ticket to send an email, you can just click on that ticket, click the email button, and send an email?
So just kind of a quick respond from the queue, right? Is what you're thinking
Correct.
about?
Correct.
Yeah. I think that's something we already have in the backlog of item or in the ideas system as well. So yeah, that's possible. It's just something that we've got to get to the front of our queue, so to speak. So yes.
Okay. The next one I have is canned response. Like we have an outage for Microsoft Teams and 50 people put in tickets about the same thing. We want to be able to just have a canned response. Oh, we're aware of the situation. Instead of having to type out to every single person, you select all of those tickets. One canned response go to all of those people. Is that something you have in the pipeline as well?
Sridhar, you wanna jump on this one, because I think there's a capability around that already. So.
Right. So Eric, like I was about to pitch in for the multi-select options or things that can we do with many records being selected in the grid. So this could be a potential candidate for that. I need to check like if we already have this, and if not, definitely that is there in our roadmap. It's in our backlog.
You could also put your canned response maybe as a knowledge article.
Yeah, and possibly we can also have an alert created because whenever the user logs in, like, and if there is an alert that is created, we call it as a whiteboard, and that will have a red icon being coming up right in the top. So the users would be very much aware of any outages that we wanted to there. It's kind of a broadcast typically.
Oh, in our environment, users only create ticket by sending an email. They have no login to track it currently.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Okay. Do we have anything further on there, or should we go to another question?
Can I follow up on that last one?
Sure.
So if you can, and then I didn't know you could put something up on the self-service portal when they log in. If there's a larger scale event going on, and you were to put a global message saying, we're aware of this, is there any way that they can automatically add themselves to an open case? So if there's already a ticket for an event such as an email outage or something like that, could they, instead of creating a ticket, could they automatically be added to an existing ticket that would be like a group ticket?
I'll pause for Sridhar or Mega.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
today. Today I don't think like we have a concept of a group ticket where, or a kind of I call it as a major incident where you can have one or a problem which can be linked to many smaller incidents.
You just have to manually go in and add the ticket. I was kind of thinking of like a forum or a knowledge base thread where somebody puts up a question, hey, I'm having this problem, and then there's the little button below it that says, hey, I have this problem too.
Yeah, that's a good.
I'm almost affected basically, so it's a quick button that links you to it, but unfortunately that isn't included. So you would have to just manually create the tickets, but but the only way you can sort of kind of do it is broadcast the alert just to let them know that something's going on. But each
Right.
person will either have to.
And I'm happy that they would know that and not put a ticket in to clog up the queue. But on the same token, it'd be nice to be able to then, when we resolve it and put a message out saying it's fixed, everybody would get the notification. I'm not thinking that it's a product enhancement that needs to happen. It just, as you were saying that, it just kind of popped in my head that would be a cool thing if it happened. I don't know how you would make it work though.
There's kind of two sides of the story, really. As you say, it's the way that you don't want to cluster it so everyone notifies you and you sort of cluster up. But at the same time, you want to know how many people it's effective. But my suggestion would be is if you've got an event monitor that will notice that sort of our server is down, you can create an email from that particular monitoring system that will fire off a ticket into Track-It. You could then use a business rule that will create the announcement for you, which will hopefully then, as I say, announce it so you can be proactive with your end users to say something is going on in the environment. And as I said, I'd probably lean towards the let people know. And then, as you say, rather than them create the tickets, but they do have the option to manually do that. But it does give you that kind of proactive approach to such systems or events.
Gotcha. Yeah, we get notices from an event manager, but we don't have them automatically generate tickets all the time. So that might be something to look into too.
Yes, and if you do that, and if you have the parameters actually in the email from the monitoring system into Track-It, then you can use a business rule to automatically create the announcements as well for self-service to let them know.
Yeah, that's a great idea. All right, cool. I just made a note of that. We'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, for your help. We should move you over to the panelists. Yeah, move him over onto the panelists. Thanks. Okay, so I can see, Brandon, you've got your hand up. Hopefully you might be able to come off mute. Can you hear us okay?
Yes. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yay, we can.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys having this event. So my question is concerning the local administrator accounts. If there's not a license attached to that local administrator account, you can't log in the event that you have issues with directory services. So if that happens, there's no way to get back into Track-It. Is there a plan to have a local admin account that only does configuration as far as fixing directory services or a configuration issue, not to do anything else, just to fix those issues so that you can actually access the application again? Because if your directory services are down for any reason, so we're migrating domains, and I called into support in order to figure this out before I actually moved over the application. But if I had not have, we would have been in trouble as far as accessing Track-It.
So Brandon, let me just answer this. The credentials you use for the configurations, like the Active Directory configuration, network discovery, and things like that, those are the Active Directory credentials, like the local admin account. You have that account in the Active Directory. So although we can use this local account to configure all this stuff in Track-It, but when it comes to the Active Directory, it is mandatory to have few of the permissions, because definitely this we use this account to make some changes to the Track-It account. So we need 3 permissions, like the grant, replicate, and the delete permissions to that specific account. Now, for the other question you had, shall we need to have the licenses? Now, since this being the Active Directory account, there could also be a possibility you might have the same account into Track-It created. And yes, in case you are using that account actively to log into Track-It application and do all the help desk stuff and all the other stuff, then you can consider giving it either a concurrent license or the name license. I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So it sounds like I need a name license to that account regardless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for your question, Brendan.
Thank you.
Okay, we're getting very close to the hour, so I just want to give a final opportunity, and this has been great. I wasn't expecting so many questions. It's always great when it's interactive, and certainly when everyone is helping each other. So do we have any final questions for the team before we close the call?
I have one final one, and this is probably a feature request also. Is there anything in the making to link Track-It to connect to external database where you can, let's say Power BI can pull information from Track-It?
So business intelligence tools can typically just be pointed straight at a Track-It database. That's one path. So you don't really need a specific functionality to make that happen. We've also seen customers use the underlying database replication technology to replicate the data to another site and then point a BI tool at that. Those are a couple of options. Anuja, Sridhar, Mega, any other thoughts on that one that maybe I'm missing?
No, Eric, that's all are correct. So right now,
And-
Track-It does
and-
not have that functionality.
Right. So maybe it may not be out of the box, but you can very well make use of the web services that are present. And if you want any get the data out from Track-It, web services are here to help you out. And as Eric mentioned, the other way is directly connecting to the database, and then you also have the schema map available with you. So you can pretty much map all the data, tables and data that you want to consume, and then make your own, consume it in your own tool that is.
And in practice, I'd recommend, it depends on how much traffic your system gets, how many records your system has, and all that kind of stuff. But business intelligence tools, reporting tools can sometimes put a really heavy load on a database. And so, what we've seen kind of be the best situation in high volume environments is to use the underlying, for example, SQL Server replication to replicate that data onto a database on a different server. And you report against the data on that server just by pointing your business intelligence tool directly at the database. That way you don't have any performance issues in production. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is that answering what you were thinking of, or are we off in left field and missing what you're trying to get at? I just want to make sure we're understanding the
It
question.
does
right.
answer. I just need to know how to do it.
Yeah. So in that sense, the easiest thing to do is go look up SQL Server replication, and it's a relatively easy process to replicate the data off. And then once it's there, you just point your BI tool at that database, just like you'd point at any other. So it's not a Track-It specific thing. It's just the actual database technology underneath it from SQL Server.
If I may add to that,
Please.
that's exactly the reason why I had that issue with the web APIs, because that's what we were told to use the web APIs to pull that data out of Track-It and to be used for Power BI. But if you're saying that the SQL Server replication put on another server and then have the Power BI tool point to that, I think that's probably a lot more efficient. And in fact, I'm going to suggest that because that's the issue that we were having with web APIs. It wasn't authenticating users properly because it doesn't like it doesn't like Windows authentication. You have to actually create a standalone ID or profile and Track-It with a password in order to use the Windows authentication to use web APIs. That's a mouthful, but
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah. And the nice thing too with the underlying database replication is it happens as things are happening, right? So it's kind of a low piece of extra work that happens with every transaction, as opposed to trying to throw a lot of work at the database at one shot. So it's pretty gentle.
My other question would be to you as well, and I understand obviously Power BI is a nice reporting tool, but what is it a particular reason why you want to use that to slice and dice data? Is there nothing that you're not getting enough from the actual reporting engine within Track-It, or even the ability to export the grid and then manipulate the data in Excel? So what's the driver behind it?
The drive behind it is to get real-time data from Track-It that reflects in Power BI. If you export each time, it's static data you're
Static,
exporting each time. Now, if you
It's
use
static.
Power BI links, and
You're
you get
getting
real-time data.
real-time
As
data.
soon as information comes in, Power BI will
Mhm.
reflect that data that's new in Track-It.
Mhm.
So the key is you need it in Power BI, as opposed to
Mhm.
doing the real time through the reports that Track-It provides itself.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, got it.
You guys will hate this as the last
And-
question.
All right.
I was just gonna say the same thing, but mine is not a question. It's just to tell Samantha that I'm gonna send you an email on the issues I'm facing with the mobile
Okay.
application. I'm
Well,
gonna
I'll
send you a
connect you.
screenshot and everything.
Okay, and we can connect you with support. That's probably a good thing to do. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I mean, this
Okay,
session
thank
is
you.
to ask lots of questions. I just wasn't expecting it to be so chatty, which is great. So go on, last question.
Any hopes of a thick client, installed client again?
No,
Uh,
no, I'm sorry. No, I don't think we'll go that way, and there's not really much sign of the industry going that way either. Honestly.
I know, just so much usability lost. But
Mhm.
I got to keep asking.
Yeah, I think the issue though doesn't the challenges that you're facing aren't endemic to a thick client. Those in most cases, those are functionalities that we can build back into the web-based client, right? So I
They're
think
there.
yeah,
They're there. They're just multi-stepped to do things that used to be so simple.
yeah.
It's
So
just-
I think
it's a
the request
productivity
is
killer. That's all.
yeah. So I think the request that we need to focus on is more of one of how do we streamline the experience in the web client so it's more like the experience that you had in the
Correct.
in the thick client. That's a very valid thing, and that is something we do want to continue to do. So while I don't think we'll ever go back to the thick client, I do think there is a valid path towards streamlining the user experience to be more like what we had in the thick client.
That would be great.
Just a quick note, Cleve, regarding that defect ID you gave me. I've looked it up. I need to do a little bit more background work, so most likely
Okay.
Sridhar and or I will reach out to you here in the next day or so with some more information. So just want to let you know we're not forgetting about that, and we'll reach out afterwards.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And is there a way to get a copy of this recording for this as well,
Yes.
this session?
I just was going to mention that actually. Obviously, I'm going to do a bit of editing. There was quite a lot of dead time when we first started. I will try my best to capture all the questions that have come from today. I'll work with the team on here and drop that to them. They tend to just look at it, make sure it's correct. We will put a blog post out with all the questions that have come. Some of them, as Eric was mentioning, we may need to go and get more information, but I will go back then in due course to update the article, which will be put onto communities, and then also the recording goes out onto YouTube.